This week's Parsha Hazinu, which is the Shira of Kal Yisrael, the Techacha of Kal Yisrael, going from the beginning, the history of Kal Yisrael. Kal Yisrael goes through all time of moments. So Sweet Shimon, which was so beloved by Shimon, he always, whenever he spoke, he quoted the Sweet Shimon. He says the reason Moshe Rabbeinu started that Tzur Tam Pa'alai, but sometimes we have questions. Tzaddik L'Ralai, Tzaddik suffering, we don't understand it. But at Tzur Tam Pa'alai, we have to remember, before you learn the whole Teichacha, the whole Shira, no, the Rabbi Shalom is Tamim. There's no question on anything Rabbi Shalom does. There's no question. The Chol Derach of Mishpat. Gott mit sein Mishpat is gerecht. It's a song my mother always used to sing with us. Gott weiß was tit. Rabbi Shalom knows what he's doing. We have to remember that always, every second of our life. And Shimon lived with that. He lived with that. Atzur Tamim Pa'alai. Kelamuna. Avel Tzaddik V'Yasharhu. Rabbi Shalom is right and fair. Does everything fair for every person in the world. Shimon, the first time he got sick, did everything. He made that time a Musar library. People should be able to take out Svarim Musar. You have to learn Musar every day. And Shimon lived with that. Shimon lived with that. Every day, living every second of his life to know aleichem, that's your life. Shimon, anyone who met Shimon, the feinkeit in him, the caring, anyone who walked into Bais Medrash, anyone walked into his home, any person, child, any person went over, ran over. What's your name? How could I help you? Giving candies for children, helping children, doing for children. Shimon's life was called Ruach Habriyas Noicha Menu, Ruach HaMokem Noicha Menu. So there's two pshatim. Kol Ruach Habriyas Noicha Menu. If you see people like a person, you know Ruach HaMokem, you know the Rabbi Shem likes him. And the other pshat, Kol Ruach Habriyas Noicha Menu, someone who's nice to people, then Rabbi Shalom. Shimon had both of these qualities. Because Shimon was beloved by anyone who met him and anyone who spoke to him and anyone who had any doing with him. He was so refined, so refined. Ruach Habriyas Noicha Menu. Anyone you speak to, anyone shaychas, Ruach Habriyas Noicha Menu. The Baruch Shem gave him all these extra years to be able to continue doing his chesed. When the yeshiva for the deaf started, he is the first one who took Rabbi Shlomo Miller Shlita into his home and started and helped him. And he used to take those boys into his house. So always invite, these are my children, these are my boys. And saying everything and always making parlor meetings for every Dover and Nitzrach, opened up his home together with his wives as ein gesund und stark, for anything that was needed. Because that's what his life was all about. If you want to test the person, look at his kibbut Aim. Unbelievable, the kibbut Aim. The Mamzel Zangezint, the kibbut Aim that Shimon had. For his father, till the last moment, he made a special kehilla for his father to be able to come learn and to be occupied and learn. But anyway, the cover that he gave, the emissary covered, the ganze hearts, anything he did, always for the mammons are gesinnt und stark, everything he did, the kibbut Aim. Some people are nice to others, but you could see how they're to their parents. That's why it's in the right side of the luchos. It's one from his mashva kvoid of imay lekvoidoi kav yachol. If you mechabed the Rebbeinu Shalom, you mechabed your parents. If you mechabed your parents, you mechabed the Rebbeinu Shalom. The same chayv odam bekvoid ishtoi. the cover that he gave to his wives as gesinnt. And the same thing, what she gave back with Mesiras Nefesh till the last moment. The beautiful, beautiful derech b'nei Yisrael, like the Rambam brings down how they live, that you saw by them, by Shimon and his wife, the way. And the main thing is the chinuch habanim. You could fuck everybody, but you can't fool your children. Children really see what you really care about. Children really see what this beautiful bottom Ksab Sofer again, because this is what he lived with. This week's parsha. Sampam es levavchem al advarim hashanoich made. You should put your heart to it. So Rashi says you should give you the einov, the oznov, the liboy. Zokta Ksab Sofer, it means if you do something besimcha, if you do mitzvahs besimcha, then your children, you do something besimcha. The father does anything he did. The simcha that he did, the simcha that he was able to perform a mitzvah. How many times he called up, he wanted to make sure that every mitzvah properly, that everything should be done properly. Am I doing enough? Then yitzavah, then you could be mitzvah your children. Last is called to do everything. Lishma v'lastois is called the Divrei Torah azois. And the pasuk continues later. So the Ksab Sofer says pshat. When the children go in the derech with the Rabbeinu Shalom, he's living. Shimon is still living through every one of his children, his sons and his daughters, and his sons-in-law and the daughters-in-law, and the Einikloch, the beautiful Einik you see over here, everyone. You see them, because this is, he gave over the love he showed to every one of his children, the love he showed to every one of the Einikloch, the whole heart. So Yarichon Adam, you're living on Al Adama, he's still living. He's going to continue living through his children. Shimon is going to be living through every one of his children with the Maisim Toivim that they do. Everything they live the way their father, everything they do, everything has to be done, halacha, everything has to be done in every way. Every one of their children. He's an example. Was Erlich Yid Avzan, Erlich in business, Erlich in talking. He was so nizzer in Dvarim, Chas not to hurt people. Lashon Hara and other ways. Always Kal Chas Shalom. And this you see for his whole life. The Rabbi should help. It's the day after Yom Kippur. He's an example of how we should live. How every one of us should live. Example for me and everyone how we should live. How a person should take care of his parents. Take care of his house. Take care of his children. Take care of Rabbanim. Take care of Talmidei Chachamim. Take care of Moshe Torah. Take care of everyone in the world. One should help that he should be a male Yoir. For his wife, who was so sacrificed so much for him, did everything for him. For his children, who was so dedicated to him, his grandchildren that he loved so much, the kehilla that he loved so much, the kehilla that he did everything for the kehilla of Agudah, kehilla of Toronto, kehilla of Klal Yisrael. Should be male Yoir for all of them. We should be zeicha that the Rabbi should help now that this year is of Hakel should be taka Hakel in the Beis Hamikdash. B'bias hagoyel b'meir b'meinu amen.
Saying a hesped for a few minutes, it's impossible to encapsulate what should be said over such a chashuva life that my Shaya lived. I think it's negea what we said yesterday in the Avodah during Musaf. It's really Gemara in Yuma. The Kohen Gadol read after the Avodah. The Kohen Gadol reads Parshas Achri Mos. After finishing Achri Mos, they do Hag B'Lila. They wrap up the Torah. They put the Torah on the Kohen Gadol's lap, and they said, that You can't read the whole Torah here. Whatever's written here is really more than we can say in the Torah. So I think the same thing applies by Hesped. Whatever I say is not going to be enough. But whatever pratim I say, Yoir Dunamag has a vert in this week's parsha. I'm not going to say the mashal, but the vert is a good vert without the mashal. The pasuk says, that Hashem created forgetfulness, and instead used it for forgetfulness to forget Hashem. That people, you wouldn't be able to live your life without being able to forget. So people have fights with each other or whatever they want. They have relationships and they have a fight. If you wouldn't forget every single fight, everything would be hakbada. You wouldn't be able to live your life. So Baruch Hashem created a forgetfulness that you should forget something, because or else you wouldn't be able to do it. And what do you do instead? You instead used it, used it, fakeret, to forget Hashem. So I think this is the opposite is true here. I think that Daddy never forgot Hashem. Everything he did was for Hashem. And there's two pratim that I want to bring out over here. One is there's two chalakim Torah, like we say when it comes to Yom Kippur, there's two things, ben l'chaver and ben l'makom. So first I'll say ben l'makom, like Rabbi Lowy said, everything was done katlacha, but I want to focus in on a pratim. There was a lot of times that when at the end he wasn't feeling well, that simcha, singing, and he really enjoyed it. At the end of when he wasn't well, and he couldn't even talk, you could have a conversation. If you asked a question, it was yes or no. He came on a Shabbos, on a Friday night. He was a long day in the hospital, and he was sitting at the table, ate a little bit, and then we started singing Zmiris to make simcha. It was just me and my wife and mommy, and he sang every single word of the Zmiris. Every single one. You couldn't say a word in conversation. You couldn't talk to him, say no, yes or no. You want food? Maybe a yes, no. But it came to this, every single word he said. How's it possible? It's a complete naze. It's not. It's not possible. He was so out of the be able to be talking. But it came to the nearest every single word. Friday night, Shabbos day. And I wasn't able to sing the Zmiris. I had tears in my eyes. I couldn't believe it. How it's possible that someone can be so connected to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, they can't say a word, but the Zmiris, every single word they were saying. When it comes to being able to mechaberoi, it's Yedua. The Rav said the kibbutz aim that he had was legendary, and the care that he took for Zaida and Bubby was in the Shire to understand how one person can do such a thing. And now Bubby was able to reciprocate. Unfortunately, she was there every day holding him and doing the best that she can. And Bubby, you should have koyach to keep on going. Do what you're doing. And you should have koyach to everything you did for Daddy. You should continue on your schus. And you should have koyach to keep on going and have nachas from your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. And you should continue to give us nachas to see what a powerful symbol you are for us, that we should follow. You should have only koyach and arichas yom and simcha. Unfortunately, recently my wife is going a lot to Toronto to visit. Every time I was there by myself, they asked me what are you doing, whatever. My wife went to Toronto to visit her father. Oh, your father-in-law is the nicest guy in the world. He's the best person. He was never even in LA. He came to LA once in a while, maybe to say for Shabbos, whatever. Every single person, the person was a nice person, or not a nice person. Every single person said that your father-in-law is the nicest person in the world. It's only possible that if it's really true, it's possible that everyone would say the exact same thing. It's only because it's taka true that Daddy was the nicest person in the world, and no one ever had a bad thing to say about him. When as a personal relationship with him, he always had a nice thing to say. He always compliment. This is very good. This is what you do is good. We're so proud of you. This is so good. That. And my wife always said that's Daddy. Daddy always says everything is great. He always says compliments, whether it's the Shashi or the mommy. Everything was always excellent, and it really made us feel good that he always had a nice thing to say. And it's not easy to always have a nice thing to say. Sometimes things aren't so nice to say, but he always had a smile. Always so happy to see us. and always had a nice thing to say, and it's really so appreciated, and there's a huge hole in our heart that we're not going to have this anymore. Even a bigger hole in our heart. I was thinking last night. I was flying on a plane last night. I was thinking that Zaidi he was the Zaidi. I told my kids this morning that he was a professor of the Zaidi University. If you want to know how to be a Zaidi, then you go ask my shver how to do it, because he was the expert how to do it. We used to get packages and phone calls, and he learned Harusa with the kids. And when the kids would come, he would learn. Even now, when Aaron came to somebody, he was learning with him, and he was so happy to learn with them. And such a shaykhus to the grandchildren. It wasn't just that, oh, my grandchildren, whatever. He really took it heart, and it meant this so much to him. And he really put his heart into it. I was thinking last night that it's so sad that he had a love named for every grandchildren, just for my children, Dovala, Yaakov, and Avilu, and Aroni. I mean, he really, it was special to him. It was something that was really, it went to his heart. It wasn't just that. He really meant it. Baruch Hashem, recently, COVID, it was very hard. He had great grandchildren, and they weren't able to visit because it was very difficult to come. And Baruch Hashem, now in the summer they came, and he was so happy to see the great grandchildren and his great granddaughter and grandsons. And he was so happy to see them. And he really brought a smile to his face. A simcha. That was his simcha. His simcha was his children and his grandchildren, and that's what kept him going. It's a very special relationship that my Shara and Shviger had with each other, and it's really, for us, it's an example of how a husband should treat his wife. I don't think there's anyone you can look up to that say, if you could learn from somebody how someone should treat their wife and act on it and do it like he did, then that if we act like he did, then no one would have a shalom bayis issue in the world. It's such a beautiful relationship. You go get flowers. Even if he's not with get flowers every Shabbos, so you come to our house and there was a Mexican lady selling flowers in the front, and they were not such nice flowers, but he had to get flowers for mommy every Shabbos, and so he'd buy flowers from the not so nice flowers just so he should make sure that she had that one flower for mommy every single Shabbos, because that's what was important to him. That make sure that it wasn't the flowers, there was the thought that counted. He cared. He really cared to make sure that do what he's supposed to do every single week. Mommy, you worked so hard for daddy over the last year. You put all your kaiches into it, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's all you did, daddy, and your kaiches and is so appreciated. And Hashem's going to pay you back, and you should only have strength and nachas for your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, and only have kayach to keep on going. Daddy should be a male Yoir for our family, entire family, and we should only share together in simple.
Rosh began in the little Shushanim, Oskim Shir Shirin. It's explained to mean that Hashem came down to this world, began pick the Shushanim, take the chosen ones, take them to the next world. Father Shimon Yehuda ben Chaim Shai Shlema, reigning with Kevura some Strawberry, was a other Muslim. Torah, loved learning Torah. Talmud Chacham taught us from day one everything we know. There's a Maker Torah. Like your Chachamim, like people that learn Torah, Rabbanim in the city, Gedalim around the world, whether it was exactly his type or it was different, didn't matter. It was a Galba Torah.
chab them like a gadol. Daddy's avodah, his davening was the hafli. He was davening for years. I would hear him saying in Krishma, the spirit of special kavanah by your voice. Never see voice. Long before he was sick, he was davening for the chayim of the world. He would say the haftas shem kehilla. That reminded me. Say slowly, special kavanah. Every time the haftas shem kehilla. Chol vavcha, chol nafshecha, chol miyadecha. And that's how he lived his life. And with Avos Hashem, chol vavcha, chol nafshecha, chol miyadecha. His whole heart, his whole nefesh, chol miyadecha, his money. Skmios chasodim, Daddy was unbelievable. I tried to emulate his ways. I'm thinking the things that he would do. It's what he would do for somebody else to take care of them. To somebody who was new into town. How many people came over to me just today talking about how they first came, how Daddy greeted them, welcomed them. In shul, he was a person to come over to people to say, and here in the Agudah, when he would sit here, go around and sit everyone right next to him, put another chair next to him, and another chair next to him, until everybody should to mechaber everybody. Kiroi. There's somebody. He asked somebody to take a package to us in Chicago, from Toronto to Chicago. So he gave him the package. Then he came back a few minutes later with a box of donuts. Here, you're doing me a favor. There's donuts for your family. But this was his bread and butter. That he was doing this all the time. But to us, he was our father. My father was our Zaidi. Unconditional love, or it was a word where he loved us. We felt it, lived with it, thrived with it. We're saying the whole Yom Neraim, Kirachem of Albonim. Kilrachel Chanun. What is Racham Chanun? Rach Hashem is Racham of Albonim. Mashal for me, for us, was so easy because we see what a Rachim of Albonim was. Just try to picture. How much we see it. Daddy loved us. You know how much Hashem loves us. He believed in us. He encouraged us. When we weren't sure what to do, he said, I don't know if I can do it. Yes, you could do it. And with my father's yes, you could do it. That took me through years and years. I didn't realize how much it was till one time, like I missed it. He didn't say it one time, and like I couldn't handle it anymore. I needed to hear it from him. That he believes in me. Bobby said, she wanted me to mention the kevura the aim, and we all know the kevura the aim that he had was on a different plane. Was completely something else. The way he took care of Zaida, Bobby was there after davening, before davening, throughout the day. Of course, only because Mommy was encouraging him. The way he took care of them was so hard at the end. It was harder for him to do it. Hard for us to watch. My father wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. I wanted to make mention when my mother asked, and I saw Biker Chelim, the Meissen Biker Chelim, Kursatayv, They were helpful in ways, so many ways throughout these last difficult times. Saul as well came many times to help. Special mention, Mrs. Francis Grunwald, Jean Lewis were a big help. The mother had mentioned, I don't know how many times to me, how much appreciation she has for the family and friends. Every biscotti that you brought over, every meal, everybody who came to visit them in the home, everybody came to visit them in the hospital, during the dialysis, taking my mother for a walk, at nighttime. Every tefillah, I was said, we don't even know about. It'll tell them. Family, friends, children, the Einaklach around the world, by the Kibbutz Tzadikim, by the Kaisel. The friendship was a life support and life saving. Mother, mommy asked to mention how the children, my siblings, and their spouses were dedicating day, night to taking care of mommy and daddy. In town, unbelievable. Out of town, made themselves in town. Of their spouses and their children that allowed them to do it, to join them in doing it, holding mommy's hand, daddy's hand, taking care of all their needs. There's myriad needs. There's a lot that needed to be done. To mention that daddy's cover that he had for mommy when he treated her. Mommy's dedication to daddy was she was saying she doesn't deserve a thank you because of everything that daddy did for her, but it was mommy made herself like a young girl, the way she went up and down the stairs for every little need. Karsa type. It's important to give us a Karsa type. My father, at one time, I asked him about a chetol, if we should say a Karsa type. Daddy said, "Why wouldn't you do it? Why not make somebody feel good? Why not say something?" But this an emphasis of Karsa type I have to give to the Rabbanim, many Rabbanim that are here, that aren't here, that came to visit my parents, came to visit my father. Special Karsa to my master. They're mechazik him, mechazik my mother, and it meant a lot to them. That should be a meal tziyasher. The body should be strong. Gesund. Can't imagine how hard it is. Meal tziyasher for mommy. You don't need to ask you. You live your life, Daddy. Then you matter. Take care of everything. I'm sure take care of her. Daddy's thoughts never left his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren. Should be a tziyasher. Daddy was niftar right after Yom Kippur. Their tzmishayim is mechaper. Full that even fasted all day. After a tzaddik, lived his life as a tzaddik. The lines Chloe was saying, he wasn't talking, when I said vidu with him, it was a few weeks ago, he wasn't talking the whole day. He said every single word. He knew exactly what he was saying. You see on his face, him looking at the El Haba don't know with a fear. It's a Rebbe that says there's 2 ways before him. There's a kehilla, there's a Gan Eden. You saw the fear on his face, understanding, tshuva. Ilam Mavos Netzach, Malcha Hashem, Dimon Kapanim. I'm just sticking curse type personal to my wife, allowing me to come in, encouraging, pushing me to come in so many times. That's why I was there to be with my father a couple of days ago. It's a schus and children's schus. It should be a schus.
When I was in Yeshiva, my Rebbe Reb Shimon had told us that in Europe there was no such thing as being maspid your father. Rabbanim were maspid, and no such thing as kids. And Daddy, I see now that you're head and shoulders above us. Even before Daddy's here, I was looking at Parshas Hazinu, this week's Parsha, and it talks about Moshe Rabbeinu was being niftar, was about to be niftar. Vaychal Moshe ledaber es kol hadvarim ha'el al kol Yisrael. After Moshe Rabbeinu says all the psukim in Hazinu up until now, so the Parsha ends off that Moshe finished saying all his words. Vayimer aleichem, and he told Klal Yisrael, Simu levavchem l'chol hadvarim asher anochi made bachem hayom. Put your lave, everything that I'm being made to, asher titzavum es b'neichem, that you should command your children. L'shmar la'asais is called divrei atayra azos. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Klal Yisrael, put your lave to everything I'm telling you. Give it, and you should be mitzaves to your children to keep the divrei atayra azos. Daddy, this is your life story. Daddy, you're a Bayim or Rabbi Lowy, Reb Shlomo Miller, Reb Shia Feurer, and you lived with these Rebbeim. You look at the way Daddy used to stand in front of Rabbanim with a bowed posture. You didn't have to tell us. You just acted that way. You know, looking back, not just when you were sick, but when we were growing up, the kind of chinuch you gave us. I remember always, from time to time, saying to my siblings, like, Daddy really is a master mechanach. Like, just the little I understood at that age, but you found out which were the best rebbeim in Yesodei, and you said these are the rebbeim that my sons are getting, and we got them. Never got angry at us, and you gave us the feeling we had everything, but you never spoiled us. When we called to say hello, Dad used to say, that's the best reason just to say hi. On a random day, Daddy would show up with donuts and start dancing in the living room with the grandchildren. You weren't faking it for anybody. This is how you lived. This is the shul that you were in, Daddy, for decades. You had a seder in the morning, Dr. Goldhar, and then as time went on, you added more and more chavrusas, Dr. Phillips and Mr. Michael Halbert, and more chavrusas. You just kept learning, and was mentioned the way you davened. You used to hold your sitter like this by just the Mabral Arayin, the way you were still the Agudah as your shul and learning and davening. That your Akaras HaTayv was mentioned. The way you were makar, you're always at Akaras HaTayv to mommy, Akaras HaTayv to the Rebbeim of your children. Daddy used to visit Shani Bachi, Mr. Hofstadter, all the time. One time I said, why do you always go? So he's your uncle, so why do you have to go every day? So Daddy said, I have Akaras HaTayv for what Shani Bachi did for the family. So never left him. Your Keser Shem Tov is not to be believed. Everybody keeps talking about it. It's Keser Shem Tov Oila is the biggest Keser to have. Just one short story to bring it home. When we were younger, there was a few boys that came from out of town. Someone asked my parents if we could host them, and we said sure. One of the boys forgot his shoes. So Daddy, you got in the car and you drove to Yorkdale and bought him shoes. Right before Shabbos. Just always thinking of others. The kibbut aim we could talk about forever, but one prat is that Daddy, you never gave the job to us. When Zaida needed help to get his shoes on, you went on your knees and you tied Zaida's shoes. And Havdil ben Chaim L'Chaim, with that, the way Daddy treated Bubby. I used to come in to the house and Daddy's on the phone talking in Hungarian with Bubby, like all the time, a few times a day. Mentioned Mom, Daddy, your relationship with Mommy was such a lesson for us. Bend over backwards for each other. I asked Daddy, why do you use this wine for Kiddush? Because that's the wine Mommy likes. You showed me also how it's possible to continue steiging even later in life. You're always looking to grow. Like I was saying, you added more and more tzdarim. Sometimes I learned with you and I felt like I know the Gemara, and Daddy didn't show how much he knew was learning, but sometimes it came out. He would throw Chazal here, Chazal there, and I was like, okay, so like that Meir said, Daddy was a Talmud Chacham, and he learned a lot, and the way he was enjoyed saying over Dvar Torah, and he lived it. Daddy, you're a kulei leiv. Everything you gave to people with leiv, you learned with leiv, daven with leiv. What did you say to people when you introduced your children to them? You said Zes Hara Maleinu. You really meant it. Daddy, the Yisurim you endured or Ein L'Shire, you didn't complain. And when it hurt really terribly, what you said was Hashem or Anu, or you would say Apu, or you would call Mommy's name. Never complained. I was driving a few weeks ago with Daddy to dialysis, and Daddy was in terrible pain. And he said, I'm going to raise my hands to Shemayim. Parsha ends off when Moshe Rabbeinu was niftar. Muspa Hara Sharta Oila Shama. The Moshe Rabbeinu was niftar on the mountain that you go up there. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to go up the mountain to be niftar? So Or HaChaim says three reasons. I'll say the second one. Kadei sheyuchal lahasig ha'oisher. Moshe Rabbeinu had to go to be niftar in order to be masig the greatness. Shehisig b'emtzos maisim toivim haneiroim, that he was able to be masig through his unbelievable maisim toivim. Masha'ein yochol lahasig b'oidai meshutaf imaguf. Moshe Rabbeinu could not be masig those great hasagas while he was in the neshama. It was with his guf. She'ein yochol amas lahasig amayla hahu. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu went up the mountain. Sagt der Yoir Chaim ba'olam ha'elyon. It means he went up to the olam ha'elyon. Daddy, your mice and tovim, you're only able to be masig now that you're going to Shemayim. We have to thank the Toronto community who rallied behind Daddy and Mommy throughout. Uncle Duddy, Uncle Yehuda, Auntie Penny, Auntie Nomi, what you did as Ein L'Shire. Special mention, I don't want to mention names, but just Nee Zimmerman was devoted like a son. And whenever we were not available to put on film for whatever reason, you were there bringing pancakes and being Mechabed Daddy in an unbelievable way. And Bubby, I have one question for you. How did you bring up such a tzaddik for a son? Mommy, had I not seen it with my own eyes, Mommy, I wouldn't believe the devotion for Daddy would be possible like that. You always made Daddy comfortable, giving his neshama also, not just his guf. Even when you were busy with his guf, you made sure he put on tefillin every day. Daddy couldn't move a finger sometimes, but you made sure. A colleague mentioned about Daddy when things were he was very weak. There were days that he couldn't say a word, and we were giving him water. He mumbled a shahakal. Daddy, I want to ask Mechila on behalf of myself and the whole mishpacha. The way your Mechabed Kibud Avim left us a huge mountain to climb, and I don't know if I reached the foot of that mountain. Your neshama was purified by your Torah mitzvahs and the legacy you left us, and Yom Kippurim, like the Gemara says, it's a Simen Yafaloi, Meis B'Yotzim Yom Kippurim, Meis Mechayli Mayim, if someone's niftar from a stomach ailment, which was what Daddy had, it's Simen Yafaloi. Why Sheruben Shal Tzadikim Yisasan B'Chayli Mayim. You will build Mabes on the top of Malcha, Hashem Lakim Dom Yalka ponim.
Wrote down some thoughts about Daddy. Gemara says in Ksubis of Kamal Bays, someone's Mace Yom Kippur, Sim Yafaleh. Someone who is niftar on Yom Kippur, it's a Sim Yafaleh. It's a good sign. Rashi says, Nimcha v'noisa v'Sim Yafaleh. His Averis are Beichel, and it's a Sim Yafaleh. Daddy was niftar on Yom Kippur. And this Gemara in Ksubis is very appropriate for Daddy. Mesechtas Ksubis was Daddy's favorite Mesechta. Daddy told me the reason why it's his favorite Masechta is because it's Shas Katan. It encompasses sugyas from all parts of Shas. Ksubis, you have the entire Shas in one Masechta. Daddy, I had the entire Torah. Everything the Torah wants from a person, one perfect father. Daddy was a growing person. He was bursting with creative ideas, how to make someone feel good, and how to be a greater Rebbe Hashem himself. constant fountain of positivity, generosity, and love. His kevrusas were very important to him. And there were people who shared his intelligence and growing nature. Daddy didn't let his sickness stop him. Despite great Yisurim, he continued to daven, learn, and give up to the family. He would always stay positive and somehow find a shred of good news within the doctor's prognosis. I don't know anyone with such courage and determination to show that he could overcome any situation and would not allow limitations to dictate him. Thank you, Daddy. You taught me everything. I'll try to emulate your ways and pass it on to my children and future generations. Every time I open a Chumash or a Gemara, I'm grateful for the hour plus every night you sat with me, uninterrupted. I try to learn from you how to have a fun time with the family in an elevated way. Daddy was unique, but there's so much we could try to emulate. Daddy and Mommy had a model home of shalom bias and how to live a happy, partake life. Mommy, you did everything for Daddy 24/7. You barely slept at all in months. You made those precious moments so meaningful. Daddy, Kibbut Avin was legendary. He opened kehilla Teres Dive for Zaida and his friends and took care of every detail. He was attentive to Babi and did so much for her. Babi should have arichas yamim and in the fama. I'm sad that Daddy's incredible life on this world is over. I miss him. I love him. He was the best father. I am the proudest. It was the highest success I can have. Special thank you to the family, friends, and community. You helped my father and my family keep going with your tefillahs and help in every form. Thank you, Dr. Phillipson and Mrs. Bodnick. Hashem should bench you. I told Daddy on every Yom Kippur, we'll daven for him and he should daven for us. He told me, okay, Tatala. Just now, every Yom Kippur. Okay, Tatala. He said, we'll daven together. Daddy, please continue davening for Mommy, Babi, your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren.
It's hard to imagine. Never here. Zaidi was so full of life. Every minute, he was accomplishing more. He was making more people happy. He was doing more chesed. He was spending more time, precious time with every one of his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Every minute he used to the max. Baruch Hashem, I had the source to learn with Zaidi, Perkeyavis, with Rabbeinu Yoina for many years. Through whatever came, we made sure to keep our seder. It was a seder that I learned so much from how Zaidi, just learning with him. Just when we came to Inyani Musar, Zaidi knew so much different chazals on any topic. He different midrashim and things. I learned so much from him. First Mishnah in Pirkei Avos talks about the Messiah of getting the Torah, and then the Mishnayos go on to just talk about different midas. So maybe the first Mishnah is coming to say that even if you know what you're supposed to do, Torah, and all the Mishnayos, the way to really do it properly is only if you have Messiah, someone who you're getting it from. I think of Zaidi as someone whose midas is from generations way beyond us, from generations ago. The next Mishnah talks about Torah v'milas chasadim. Zaidi's Torah, al zeichet learn with him was learning with such a geschmack. Zaidi was the neimus. It was so sweet. It was like the most geschmacka thing. Just he always made me feel special learning with him. He would always say, "Wow, that's such a good shot," and he lived every Mishnah that we learned. His avodah, his tefillah, like it was mentioned, Zaidi David was such his rakshas. You see it on his face how every word he really felt the kavanah was in his heart. Like also mentioned Zaidi's zmiras. Zaidi loves singing zmiras because he was about hergish, and the highlight, the thing that he loved the most was he did nefesh by Shal Shudas. I can never forget. Every time he would sing the nefesh, you would see his face was glowing and he was crying, but at the same time he was glowing, and he would stop after and he would tell us, you know what these words mean, and he explained it to us, and that's what he was. He was so ruchni, so such about hergish that I won't forget it. It's something that made such a big impression on me. I think everyone knows that his biggest midah was his milas chasadim, his chesed, how he was like Ari said, he was so creative in making someone feel special. He would do whatever it takes, different ways. How could I make someone? He didn't do chesed, he lived chesed. His mission was to make someone feel good about themselves. Whenever he would talk to someone, he gave them their full attention, and he would ask them everything that was going on in their life, and whenever he would see something special, he would say, "Wow, that's amazing! Can you make everyone feel good?" He would compliment, one spouse in front of the other, and say, "Wow, you have such an amazing spouse," and he'd make people feel so good. Every year when I was growing up as a child, the highlight of the year was always going to Bobby and Zaidi for Pesach. The Sidarim, the way he made every grain, I don't know what he did, but it was to show the highlight of the year. He made everyone feel so special, and he brought out the Seder. He used to take us a lot of times for service chametz to the factory, and we do service chametz there. I remember he used to afterwards show us around the different parts of the factory. There was a whole bunch of game that used to work there, and remember each time each person he would like say, "Wow, what are you doing? That's amazing!" And he just was bursting out of him, making everyone feel so special. It made such a ratio on me. He didn't stop. Of course, like it was mentioned, his unbelievable shalom bias, how he treats Bobby like a queen. It's really something I look up to. He's so focused. He gives every single person such undivided attention, and picks up what that person feels good about, and he keeps on saying it till that person believes that they're really something special. Miss Zaidi, and we're always going to remember all these amazing milas, and shvizaychet to see Mashiach Tzkeni v'Yemenu Bilo Amav Eslonetzach U'Macha Shem Tima Mi'alkol Panim Amen.
I'd like to ask everyone to please wait till the family leaves the Bais Medrash, the Avelim. Allow them to leave the Bais Medrash first. Thank you very much. Upstairs also. I'd like to ask for everybody to please let the Avelim go out first. Thank you.
Those of you who are on Zoom who may not have heard the Rav's announcement, the host, the Spaden, the kevura is at Bathurst lawn in the Agudah Feld. Shiva will be at the home of the niftar, 62 Del Park Avenue. The minyanim are as follows. Tonight, Mincha Marv is at 6:35. And then Shachris, Friday and Sunday, is at 8 a.m. and Mincha is at 2 p.m. So Mincha, Friday and Sunday will be at 2. They're asking people to refrain from visiting Friday and Sunday after Mincha at 2 o'clock. Shiva, as you know, will conclude Sunday, October 9th, Erev Sukkot after Mincha. We ask you to have in mind Reb Shimon, Reb Chaim, Shaya, Shlom, Stern, Oliver Shalom in your mitzvahs and good deeds today. Thank you.
Father,